Hi everyone, my name is Joseph, and today I want to discuss The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live, Episode 6, the series finale, The Last Time. So right off the bat, I'm gonna have to say that there will be spoilers as always, but this episode, despite it being the series finale, it did a lot of elements that I did enjoy, but also some plot beats that I didn't enjoy as much. So right off the bat, what I did enjoy was the conclusion to Rick and Michonne's story. I think at this point, and I think it makes sense as well, I don't blame the actors whatsoever for wanting to possibly move on from this franchise, especially since they are professionals and I'm sure they want to do other properties. And in fact, not just properties, but also personal elements. And I was going to say that, in fact, one of the actors from The Walking Dead, like Maggie's actress, I forget her name in the real world, but that's why she left The Walking Dead for a little while because she actually started doing her own her own show where she was starring. Her own show where she was starring. That unfortunately didn't pan out to do so well, so that's why she came back onto The Walking Dead. And also, of course, there's Michonne and how she went onto the Marvel Universe and she was able to move on from there too. And of course, there's the final example with Rick in his personal life, where Rick wanted to spend more time with his family, who, to my understanding, was living in the UK, I believe, while he was having to film in America, right? So that's obviously going to be an issue or a bit of a factor. So I definitely see that point of view, and I don't blame the actors whatsoever again for wanting to put this story behind them. But with that being said, when it comes to the story of the CRM, I was not expecting for that to be concluded with the Ones Who Live. So I won't lie, I was hoping that there would be a season 2 of the Ones Who Live because, as one can tell from my videos, I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead. Especially, actually, let me rephrase. I'm a big fan of Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead, and one of the reasons why I kept watching the show was because of Rick Grimes. And that's why I came back. Um, but with all of that being said, I did have my expectations in check, and I knew that a season 2 would be unlikely, but I was still hoping for some cameos and just side stories from these characters. But what I was hoping for was the continuation of this rivalry between the CRM and what I was hoping would expand to our main cast. This rivalry begins obviously between Rick and the CRM as a whole, and then it includes Michonne. And then eventually, I was really hoping that once that Rick and Michonne got back to their respective homes, Alexandria, the rest of the cast would be involved as well. But unfortunately, we being the audience, we find out that that's not going to be the case. It's looking like the CRM is no longer going to be the overarching final villain of the series, and I find that to be quite shocking. Just because, and the reason why I state that is because at the end of the last time this episode, it stated that essentially the Civil Republic, the CR, the civilian portion, is now, if not taken over, is now working quite closely with the CRM, the military portion, and the Redliners. I believe that's what they were called, the Redliners, or the red, or maybe the Frontliners. But I'm just gonna call them Redliners since they had those red linings. That was supposed to be like the special forces of the CRM. They were the only portion of the military that was conducting and aware, that was both aware and conducting the wiping out of other communities, and doing these experiments and everything like that. So I knew for sure that the CRM was going to be restructured or reformed, and I was very much looking forward to that. What I was not expecting was for the Civil Republic to just completely, as I said, take over essentially. And now the CRM has been neutered, and the Civil Republic as a whole are just the good guys now. In fact, one of the final scenes of this series is of three CRM helicopters going away, and Rick, I believe it was Rick explaining that now they're a force of what used to be chaos, of evil, and now a force of good, and they're going to do their best of uniting communities rather than being isolationists and keeping themselves separated from the rest of the I was going to say the Commonwealth, that's Fallout, the Wasteland, the rest of the outside world, and start unifying everyone. Again, I don't very much mind that conclusion. I was hoping for that conclusion, just not with this show, not with episode 6, not with the last time. And I won't lie, I did watch parts of Daryl Dixon. I wasn't the biggest fan of that show. I am aware that for season 2, or at least maybe I'm incorrect about this, but I thought that Daryl was going to be coming back to America and reuniting with Carol, but maybe it'll be the opposite. Are they still going to be in France? My point about mentioning Daryl Dixon's show is just who is going to be the final villain for the Walking Dead universe. I won't lie, it is very disappointing. The CRM was really being built up to be this menacing foe. that Alexandria has not yet encountered. And as someone who's read the comics, I really didn't find the Commonwealth to be too menacing. But the CRM I was really starting to get behind, especially after watching season 2 of Road Beyond. Season 1, unfortunately, one has to get through that to get to season 2. But it was worth it for just for the background, contextual information for the CRM and the way that it operates. And lastly, I just of course have to mention, unfortunately, I don't know his actor's name, but the individual who portrayed Major Bell, he was from Lost. Bell's character was such a treat to finally see because he was always mentioned by name and Road Beyond. But with that being said, although it was a treat to see him, it's also very disappointing that his story, his presence with the well, I'm sure we'll still be feeling his presence, hopefully, after the fact, right? In the same way that Rick Grimes' presence was felt and Shane's presence was felt after their removal from the main story. But I was hoping for we're not going to get any more active participating factors from his character since now he's dead, and it is quite unfortunate. I was trying to think of a different word just because he essentially only had 3 scenes from what I recall. His first scene having his conversation with Rick, his second scene having a private conversation with Okafor, and then his final scene with the last episode and Rick. And again, I just have to say, the actor did a great job of playing him. I just wish that the writers had utilized him in a better way, where his presence would have been felt, not both abstractly but also concretely as well. So we'll see where The Walking Dead's going to go forward from here. I am curious. I might check out the second season of Daryl Dixon. But beyond that, I might be tapping out. I might be tapping out of The Walking Dead at this point. I was always in the show just for the Grimes, and with the show removing Carl Grimes, and now with this essentially looking like the end of Rick Grimes' story, I might be done as well. But like I said, if there's ever any cameos, I'll definitely will check that out because I am a big Rick Grimes fan. Excuse me. With all that being said, the last element that I want to discuss is so the final scene does include Rick, Michonne meeting back up with RJ and Judith. I'm not going to lie, I was never the biggest fan of Judith's character. Let me rephrase that. I was a fan of her character when she was a baby, but once Carl unfortunately passed away, and then Judith became a speaking character, I just didn't really much like her character. I think I am taking it too personally because she's obviously replacing Carl. But to be frank, I guess I wasn't the biggest fan of her actress as well. But happy to see and happy to hear that it's looking like she's refined her acting, I feel like, because either that or I'm finally accepting that Carl is gone and he's never going to come back, because her presence didn't irritate me, it didn't annoy me. I know that sounds childish, but hopefully one knows what I'm talking about. When she actually met up with Rick, I actually did feel a bit emotional. And that was a really cool moment. With that being said, though, they really should have done more with RJ's character because I don't blame the actor at all because what can he do with no lines? Even in the main show, I don't think he ever speaks in full sentences. He just always speaks in phrases and that's it. And it's just like, if you want the audience to have a connection with these characters, have these characters actually speak. We saw what happened with Daryl. Everyone loved his character, but then he started speaking less and less and less. And people, while they still loved him, they missed his old characterization. And then all of a sudden, he started speaking more and more and more. And we're at the level of Daryl Dixon that we currently are at, right? So, I did enjoy the last scene for the most part. I would say 80% of it because we finally got the conclusion to Rick and Michonne's story. But the less than the 20%, I am disappointed about the CRM. Would I recommend this episode? So the other episodes I've been saying yes because I felt like if one is interested in a romance story, it's still a really fun thing to watch, even if one hasn't seen the main show. But I know that perspective started changing with the previous video that I did for The Ones Who Live. But I'm gonna have to say no, I wouldn't recommend this. With that being said, for those who haven't seen the show, actually it might be a good thing for you because you get a full conclusion. You get the conclusion for these two characters that we've been following, but also the conclusion to the CRM. There's really no need for those individuals to go beyond that. So I guess by talking about it right now out loud, I'm going to change my answer a little bit. Would I recommend this for those who haven't seen The Walking Dead? Yes, because you'll get a romance story, and that was also my cat. You'll get a romance story. You'll get a villain that does the row enough that it'll make you care about what's going to happen with the CRM, and you get a conclusion to the CRM as an entity. But for those who have seen The Walking Dead, you have experience with The Walking Dead. Would I recommend this show? Honestly, oh, excuse me, not the show, this episode. Honestly, no, I wouldn't, just because the way it ended was quite disappointing. With that being said, this is not my review for the series as a whole, because would I recommend the series? Yes, I would. It's just my individual opinions for each episode. And I'm not gonna lie, as a Walking Dead fan, it did leave a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth, just the way that it ended. I will probably rewatch it, but um, I don't know. I definitely rewatched The Walking Dead all the way up to when Rick's departure. That's always been a fun thing that I like to do to have in the background. Would I include the ones who live in that sequence though? One quick analogy that I have is because in the I am a big fan of Game of Thrones, both the book series and I was gonna say video game series, but the book series and the TV series, and I actually do put that on. It's my comfort show. I put it on in the background when I'm doing other things such as cleaning or working or and so forth, right? But when it comes to the last season, I always stop with episode two. No, well, I always watch up to episode two, and usually with episode three, I don't even finish that episode. I usually stop right before John yells at the Night King's dragon. The only reason why I stop right there is just because I don't want to continue the story because I know how it ends. It's not that I dislike the ending. It's just that I would rather honestly restart the story from there than continue watching. I kind of feel the same way about that with this last episode because the CRM, again, that just leaves a really bitter taste in my mouth. But as a big Rick Grimes fan, I can't lie. I'm really happy that Rick Grimes as a character finally has a conclusion. So that's really cool. That's really awesome. But then you have that bitter taste. You have the sweetness, and the bitterness starts coming with the CRM. I say all of this now, and even though I know this video has been out it should have been came released earlier. The episode came out March 31st. It's already April 28th. So I've had some time to digest it, but I haven't rewatched the episode. I've only seen it once. Who knows? Maybe my opinion will slowly start to change because when it comes to the Game of Thrones, again, I did rewatch the final season twice, so I hope to formulate my conclusion about why I don't continue past episode 2, past episode 3, and that one scene. Episode 2 in terms of me actually engaging with the show, and episode 3 in terms of I just have it on as background. Maybe my opinion will change once I give it a second viewing. But anyway, so it's a really hard thing for me to answer, but I'm going to do a video where I discuss the series as a whole, the ones who live. And I know for sure when I discuss that, my answer, would I recommend it? Oh, yes, I definitely would. This series began really strongly, in my opinion. And although the pacing was quick, I understood why it had to be so fast. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I hope you have a great day and take care.